it was one of those seasons where we're trying to keep all these pieces together. And, you know, I feel like we get to the state tournament and try to put all our chips on the table. And then by the time we got there, we didn't have any left.
Well, I say that to say this, because, of course, I'm not going to lead with him taking 51st. There's a story behind this of true perseverance and grit. So tell us what happened since that day or whatever year it was, share the year, and then you taking 51st, and then what happened the next year, and the next year.
So that was 2019, and I was teaching at Sahuarita Middle School. I was supposed to move to their new middle school, Wrightson Ridge, which is a K-8, which is where I am now, but the school wasn't open yet. So that kind of got delayed. It was supposed to open August, and then they only opened K-5 in August, and they were supposed to do middle school in January, and I was going to move there. Then that got pushed back to the following August. So all those 8th graders that we had at Sahuarita Middle School that were on the wrestling team, I had in PE and or weights class. And then we had a good group of freshmen at the high school that year that didn't know anything about wrestling. And we went to the state tournament, you know, finished where we did. And then we just took all those kids and started traveling. And I was just preaching to them. We had kids who wrestled. And I told them that we wanted wrestlers.
Yes.
And there's a difference there. You know, kids who wrestle is just kind of in season. They come in and do their thing when it's in season, and then they transition to their other sports, which is fine. You need those kids. But in order for us to be where we wanted to be, we needed kids who were wrestlers. And we spent that whole summer and that next year really turning that group of kids into wrestlers. And then the following year, 2020, we ended up second place at the state tournament.
So you went from 51st to second place. That's I can't think of any other like program or sport where that big of a jump in success has happened. That's pretty amazing. Now, okay, so you took second that year, and you credit to your traveling with them around, taking them to tournaments, probably year-long training, weight training. And so then the next year, what happened?
The next year was we were gunning for a state championship that next year, and you know we were gunning for it the year before. We wanted to go 51st to first, and that hadn't been done. And so we ended up second. And then the following year, Safford had a really good group of 8th graders come in as freshmen, and we had some injuries at the end of the year that really cost us, but that was the COVID year. So we didn't have our state tournament till like the end of March, and we really only had, I want to say it was like 8 weeks of a season where we could have one duel a week, and then all the kids had to get tested every day. We weren't in school, so the kids would come to school for practice. We had to get tested before practice, nose swabs, and that was kind of a nightmare.
That was a weird time. It feels like it was a decade ago, but it was just like a few years back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a strange time. I can't imagine with the wrestling, because you guys are just, you know, right up on each other, and yeah, that had to be challenging.
I can't believe they let us do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Luckily that year, the AIA, so when we did our regular duels, we had 12 regular season duels, and we had to have, all the kids had to wear masks during the duel. So they were wrestling with masks.
Oh, that had to be so horrible.
It was terrible. And, you know, because of the moisture in their breath, they would come and just soak in, their masks were soaking, and I don't know, I doubt that it helped, but we got to sectionals and state in the postseason, and the AIA luckily voted to not have the kids wear masks, but they did vote to have a state tournament, which luckily we got to have, and send that group of seniors that we had, send them off the right way, and we ended up second again that year.
Now, did you have any state championships that year?
That year, no.
Champions? So you got some second, thirds maybe? Or
we had Gabe Elias got second that year. Christian Lopez got second that year. So we had 2 kids in the finals, and we had a chance to win, but that really cost us. And then we had another kid who was ranked number 1 in the state, Jaden Real, and he in one of our duels got canceled because another team had COVID. They had to contact trace and send their kids home. So instead of having a duel with them, we had a duel in practice that day, and our kid ended up getting hurt and dislocated his elbow.
Oh, my goodness.
So he was ranked number 1 in the state and probably would have won a state title that year. And I usually don't say, we probably would have won it with that kid, but
that's a lot of points you would have scored.
He was far and ahead of anyone in that group, and he actually wrestled the state champion like 6 months later, the kid that won that weight class, and beat him like 18-1.
Oh my goodness!
So that's incredible. It is what it is, but probably cost us the title there.
Yeah. So then go ahead and go the next years and kind of what happened those few years, and if you want to highlight any of your guys that really kind of stepped up or maybe won a state championship or place, that'd be great.
So 19 and 20, or 19 we finished 51st, 20 and 21 we finished second. And, of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, God, we can't win it. We're, people are going to start thinking, oh, yeah, he's a great coach, but they can't win it. I mean, selfishly, that's what
Buffalo
I'm thinking.
Bills, right? Is that the 4 times?
Yeah, the shout out Bills Mafia, sorry. So then the following year, and Safford won that state championship in 21, and they brought all their kids back. And there were a few posts on message boards and stuff that I kind of used as motivation because, people just post whatever their thoughts are. And one of them was Safford wins state with only 2 seniors, and those seniors didn't really score any points at the state tournament. So, it was like the next 4 years or the next 3 years, they should win every one. And, I screenshotted that and kept it, and every other practice, I'd take a look at it and get fired up before practice and get the kids going. And so then after that, we won in 22, 23, and 24.
That's amazing. That's outstanding. Yeah, I feel like they could have a Netflix movie about you. But does this mean we're coming to a break here, David? The music playing? Do we need to take a break?
Yeah.
Yep, you said yes? Okay, so I think we're going to a break. I'm new to this, so I don't know. So I guess we can just go to break whenever you tell me to go to break. Yeah. Is that what that means?
My heat and air were in a state of disrepair.
Happy New Year and welcome to 2025. It's a new year, but we still have air conditioning and heating systems at last year's prices. We have high-efficient inverter systems for as low as $89 a month. For year-round comfort, call Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing at 520-492-0748 or PictureRocksCooling.com.
Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating and Plumbing.
Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltalon.com. Again, that's selltalon.com.
Discover the power of 88 Crime, where your anonymous tips are rewarded with cash. When you call in anonymously with the tip, you are given a code. With the code and a password, you can walk into a bank and redeem your reward anonymously. If your anonymous tip results in a felony arrest, you can claim up to $2,500 cash reward. Let's stop the silence on crime and strive for a safer community. For more information, please visit 88crime.org or call 88crime.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, CopperCreekCookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, CopperCreekCookies.net.
You're listening to the Live the Dream Media Network, Arizona's premier live podcast studio and online radio.
All right, we're back. So I want to highlight some of your wrestlers that maybe won state and place, and then I want to have a little bit of the conversation of the difference in coaching young people today, when Coach Barry, when you were a coach, and then how you do it now, because life has changed, like, with social media and people's ability to find information, to get distracted. It's a different world. So I want to get into that. But can you maybe highlight some of your wrestlers that have won state championships, or are there any surprises? Maybe there was a young man or a young lady, because you've also had women wrestling, right? And so maybe we can highlight some of them that have, maybe they weren't expected or you weren't projecting them, but then all of a sudden they just like a light switch it and then something happens. Can you highlight any of those guys?
Yeah,
girls?
of course. Our first state champ was Gabe Howard, which on the last place team, he was one of the leaders on that team, but he was ineligible the week of sectionals. Sorry, Gabe. And that just, that was just eating at us. And so, like I said, we kind of fell apart at the end that year. Well, the following year, he comes back and just has a great season, goes undefeated until the South Point tournament, loses to a kid who was All-American from Cesar Chavez, very good. Loses to him, close match, one takedown match at the end, and then wins Flowing Wells, runs through the state tournament, gets a pin or a major every match, and then his little sister, eventually, she started wrestling for us that year in middle school, and I kind of would poke at her that, are you going to be as good as Gabe? Or, Gabe, if she's dogging it on sprints or something, Gabe would be sprinting. Gabe would be running through that, and she just kind of put her head down and just start working harder. And she wrestles at William Jewell right now, Mia Palacios. Yeah, so she was great for us, and she started for us in middle school, and her and I have a great relationship, and we FaceTime and talk still now. She's a freshman in college and doing really well. They're getting ready for their region championship at William Jewell. And then the following year, the second year that we got second, we didn't have any state champions. And then the year after that, our first state title, we had 3. Julian Prieto was actually Gabe and Mia's cousin. He transferred from Desert View. Like I said, we had after that going 51st to 51st to second. We had a couple transfers come in, and he was one of them. Transferred from Desert View. So he ends up winning 2 state titles for us, junior senior year. Christian Lopez won a state title for us, and then we have a 3-time state champ right now, going for his 4th, Gabriel Gallardo. Fingers crossed he's going to be our first 4-timer.
That is incredible. So he won as a freshman. What weight is he?
Right now he's 157.
157. And what was his weight as a freshman?
Freshman was 144.
144. Oh, so he's been hanging around that weight for a while. That's like the toughest weight too, like that 144, 150.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Wow. So no, that's awesome. And like I said, I'm gonna be part of his Netflix show when they show this story because it is an amazing story. But now, athletes have changed, right? They're not the same coach when you were coaching that they are now. What have you seen that your son has done that has been able to connect and have his success? Because we were talking earlier, and you're like, man, it'd be a lot more difficult to coach these days than when you were coaching. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Paul was my assistant for 9 years at Ironwood Ridge, and at the beginning, he had just gotten out of Pima, and he was like a good workout partner for all the guys. But as the years went on, he took over more duties, and towards the end, I was just kind of overseeing it, and he was actually running the show. And he has a good way of developing relationships with the kids, which I see. Like, I feel like I have a good relationship with most of the kids, but it's more like as a grandfather or something. And he does a really good job. I think he's benefited from the coaches that he had, myself, Coach Steve Lopez and Manny Galvan at Pueblo, on how to handle people, and wrestled for Joe Solorio at Pima, and then coaching at Ironwood Ridge with Jeff Hannon and Ray Nunemaker, people that I see he's drawn qualities out of all those guys, and does a good job of blending all that in. And I look at some of the, all the social media stuff and the kids. I don't really think kids are different than, they just have different tools, and but he's able to get these guys to work hard, and they buy into what he's selling.
That's the key right there, right? Buying in. So let me ask you this, Coach Paul. Now, I always say more is caught than taught. Obviously, having a dad like you have, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that you've learned from him. What are some things that he's taught you that's helped you develop as a coach and kind of make you the coach you are today, which is, and I just want to honor you because I think coaches are such a big part of young people's lives. I mean, you know, the respect and things that I know through my experiences, it's my coaches, like a high level respect. So what are some things that you've learned from your dad who's been a coach, your coach, but a dad that has helped you be successful?
I think the biggest thing is being able to handle people and decisions not emotionally. And when I was younger and he was running the show at Ridge, there were a few situations with parents and wrestle-offs, and people wanted to be certain weight classes and, you know, all this stuff. And I remember being like, no, we need to, you know, and he's like, just relax or take care of it. And, you know, he's not going to spend time worrying about it for, you know, 3 days. We don't need to worry about it until it comes down to the time to make a decision. And we had a kid that transferred out one year, like at the end of the year, and it was he wanted to wrestle a certain weight class, and it was pretty much, you know, I want to wrestle this weight class or I'm not wrestling at all. And, you know, I was like, well, too freaking bad. This is where you're going. This is what we're doing. And if not, you're not going to wrestle. And, you know, he handled that situation probably as mature as you could as an adult. And, you know, I was an adult, but at the same time, I was, you know, full of vinegar and
testosterone, vinegar.
Yeah,
all that. Yeah.
I was just like, no, there's no way. And the kid we went to Flowing Wells tournament, and the kid ends up transferring that Friday of Flowing Wells. And back then there was an option for coaches to sign off on, or the sending schools to sign off on your transfer form. And me, you know, being young, I was just like, no, don't sign off on that, you know. And he was just like, no, it's fine. He doesn't want to be part of our program. He wants to go somewhere else. Let him wrestle. Why are we gonna punish the kid because he doesn't want to be here? You know. And in my head, I'm like, no, we got the best program. We got this. We got that. And he was just like, he doesn't want to be a part of it. It's okay. Let him go wrestle. We're not going to get anything out of punishing this kid or holding it against him. Just let him go.
Love it. I love that. That's wisdom right there.
Yeah,
because you know, we get selfish. Like we want, like, you know, I want this, I want that, but you know, and I think this is what you've done so well. I mean, I think, you know, just having conversations with you, you're able to see what that other person across from you needs, and I think this is just me looking from afar, where the conversations we've had. Is that you're able to put yourself and see things from their perspective. So, yeah, got to honor your dad for that, because that's an amazing lesson. So here's something else I want to talk about. I've always had a huge level of respect for wrestling and wrestling coaches, because wrestling's the one sport where, unlike in the world of baseball or football or things I've been part of, there's no subjectivity. There's no like, hey, you know, this guy can do this, or you're going to wrestle off. You win, you get to wrestle. If you lose, then you don't. So it's like a way to just two people wrestling, and the best one's gonna win. Are you guys familiar with that? This is one of my favorite stories. I tell this to every class I have. I teach a college readiness class at Pima College, but it's called the Milo of Croton. Have you heard of Milo of Croton? No. Okay, so I got to share this story because I'll tell you why I love it. Milo of Croton was this famous Greek wrestler that won like 6 Olympics and was considered one of the strongest people in the world. He held up a ceiling and saved all these people, right? So he was a really just amazing wrestler. But the way he became amazing was his dad, when he was a kid, would have him put a baby bull calf on his shoulders and walk up a hill and tell him how much it weighs. And he would do that every day, right? So you can imagine this baby bull calf. And he's growing as the kid's growing, and by the time he becomes the 18, 19, he's like 1,000-pound bull on his back. But I love that because small incremental progression, right? And, you know, people, like, wrestling's not a sport. Like, you're going to go in there and you're going to lift weights and get strong. There's technique, there's strategy, there's conditioning, all these little things. What is it that both of you love about wrestling that you think your wrestlers are going to take with them after they leave your program? Because you're not just building young people for that moment, you're building them for the rest of their life. What are some things you think wrestling does for those students of yours?
In my opinion, being able to push through in hard situations and keep their chin up and just be able to push through when things get tough and not give up on themselves. And we can see it in matches when, kids start to hang their head or other teams start to hang their head and kids are ready to break. And we just kind of push them and encourage them like, no, you can do this. We believe in you. We know you can do it. We've seen you do it before. You can push through and get the job done. And for the most part, our kids, pick their heads up and push through. And we talk about, as a team, we talk about trying to build good husbands, good wives, good fathers, good parents.
Love it.
Good people. When things get tough in life, are you just going to pack it in and quit? Are you just going to quit on yourself, quit on your family, quit on your kids? We bring that up a lot, probably, 2 or 3 times a month, just because we're trying to develop them as people. Of course, we want to win high school wrestling matches, but at the end of the day, we also want them to go on and be successful in life, in their careers, and as parents and as spouses.
Oh, Coach, I love that. I love that. If I had young kids, I'd want them to wrestle for you. Just hearing that right there, I love hearing that, because you hear so many coaches, they talk about just wanting to win and they do whatever to make that happen. But I love what you said, and thank you for what you do, because that's amazing. How about you, Coach Barry? What would you say that wrestling does for these young people?
Resiliency, which basically is what he just said. But the one thing I really like, I have a love-hate relationship with wrestling because of the exact same reason. It exposes you. You're out there by yourself, and if I lose a wrestling match, it's on me. I mean, I can say the ref blew a call or the coach told me something wrong, but which those things happen. But 99% of the time, it's on me. I either won or I lost. And all our kids, we've probably seen all of them cry at some point in their career, and it's so personal. Like other sports, like you strike out in baseball, that sucks, but it's not like someone just rubbed your face in the mat and basically took your manhood from you, And that's what it feels like when you lose a wrestling match.
In front of everybody.
Yeah.
And,
in those tights too, right?
yeah. And, and coming back, I really like the kids that get beat in a tournament and then they come back and get third place.
That's awesome.
And, after you lost that match and then you got another one coming up in 45 minutes against some kid that just won his last match and is on a roll, and you got to get yourself ready to go again. And
that's our buddy Eddie Carrasco and Mike Romero. I think they both took third. They lost a match because they were expected to win the state championship, but I think they ended up both taking third. That's a great, because somebody could just bare their head and say, I wanted to get first, but then to come back and, hey, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. One of our defending state champs, Danny Guerrero, is he's going to Eastern Oregon next year to wrestle, and I met one of the coaches there. He was at Reno, and he was watching Danny wrestle, and we got to talking, and he told me the way that he discovered Danny was he was looking at national tournaments that Paul takes these guys to, and he was looking in the consolation brackets for kids that had won 5 or 6 matches in a row, and Daniel had won, 6 matches in a row at this big tournament in Iowa, and that's how he got on to him to recruit him.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think we can do to continue to promote wrestling here in Southern Arizona? I was watching the Robles guy from ASU. You heard his story, and then I watched another show, a female wrestler, Tatiana. Have you seen that story on that? That's a great one. A female wrestler that just was I think it's Tatiana Suarez or something. I don't know. Maybe somebody could send something in but they're both, I think, Netflix shows. But I think it's such a beautiful sport. You and I, we had a conversation earlier, because those of you who know me, I was an athletic director at Pima, and back in 2018, we had to drop football because the 4 schools in Phoenix, Maricopa, Phoenix College, Glendale, Mesa, and Scottsdale dropped their programs, and then Arizona Western and Eastern, we had nobody competing against. And I ended up leaving in 2018 to become a vice president, but one of the things I always want to do, I want to bring wrestling back. Like, I think it's just a great way to lure, some people to college and get them hooked on higher education. Would you guys be open, or what do you think we can do to continue to promote it? And maybe, we used to have a strong community college wrestling program. Glendale, Eddie Urbano, who's related to the Romeros, Augie and Raul and all them, won a national championship at Pima Community College and JCA, and then he went on to ASU, and I think he won a national championship there. Do you think there's an appetite for that out there? Do you think if we started working on this, we could get some legs and maybe get it going? What are your guys' thoughts?
I think so. And, my wife, I said she's super supportive, and we always talk about me going to go coach college somewhere when these openings come up, in the NWCA, the National Wrestling Coaches Association, always puts out job openings for head coaching positions. And we talk about the Pima job, and she's like, would you take that job? And I'm like, yeah, in a heartbeat. If it was a fully funded program, I'd take that job in a heartbeat. That was, I kind of grew up there. Like, I was going to all of Joe's camps when he was putting them on. I was the scorekeeper at the table, running the scoreboard for a bunch of those teams when they had home duels. And we grew up, like, I think our house is maybe like 7 minutes away from Pima.
Oh, you guys
Pima
Westsiders? And then you live right by me. I'm on Gorette and El Moraga right there.
Yeah, we live right
we're
there.
Neighbors. Okay, yeah.
That stop sign is 200 feet from our driveway.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, so this is what we would need help with. Do you have solid connections out there in Phoenix? Because the way this would happen is we'd have to make sure those high school wrestling coaches are going maybe to like board meetings for Maricopa Community College and talking to them why wrestling is important. Why we think we should get it going. Like, if you guys got rid of football. Football's expensive. We know that. Wrestling's not expensive. We're going to buy a single lead, and maybe you're going to get the mats, but the mats are going to last a long time, right? So, maybe that's what we could do. But we're going to go ahead and go to a break, and then we'll kind of finish up here, and maybe we can start strategizing and change the world and do some amazing things. All right. Thank you, guys, and we'll be back in a moment.
My heat and air were in a state of disrepair.
Happy New Year and welcome to 2025. It's a new year, but we still have air conditioning and heating systems at last year's prices. We have high-efficient inverter systems for as low as $89 a month. For year-round comfort, call Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing at 520-492-0748 or PictureRocksCooling.com.
Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating and Plumbing.
Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltalon.com. Again, that's selltalon.com.
Discover the power of 88 Crime, where your anonymous tips are rewarded with cash. When you call in anonymously with the tip, you are given a code. With the code and a password, you can walk into a bank and redeem your reward anonymously. If your anonymous tip results in a felony arrest, you can claim up to $2,500 cash reward. Let's stop the silence on crime and strive for a safer community. For more information, please visit 88crime.org or call 88crime.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, CopperCreekCookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, CopperCreekCookies.net.
I'm Christina Johnston.
And I'm Bridget Kosis.
And we're the hosts of the Backseat Thriver podcast, coming to you every Friday at 10 a.m. live. So be sure to check us out.
You're listening to the Live the Dream Media Network, Arizona's premier live podcast studio and online radio.
All right, so yeah, bring those mics close to you guys, because here's what I'm thinking. So this is me and David, and probably Clint know this, because Clint Peak and David, they were just very helpful in my life and things I'm doing, just very awesome as far as promoting just quality human beings, those two. And so we always believe like things happen for a reason, right? So Clint Peak and I, like, we were hanging out a long time ago. He was doing some baseball stuff, and we connected. And then I started to do some things, and we connected again. And we're like, this is the universe working, bringing us together. So I believe the reason we're here together right now is because there's something on the horizon. And what if, let me ask you this. What if we were able to bring back wrestling at the ACCAC, that's the Arizona Community College Athletic Conference? What if we were able to get 4 teams in Phoenix and 4 teams, Arizona Western, Eastern Arizona? And so, I think that's kind of why this is all happening. But let's start working, because I want this to be the reason, like, hey, this was the spark that created that, and then then we ended up having a program at Pima. I ended up having a program. I probably have our chancellor and board members there. Oh man, you're bringing another sport or this and that. No, this is, we've got a lot of reasons why this would be successful. I mean, for us at Pima, we used to have eight female sports, 8 male sports, but then it kind of there's no equivalent to volleyball, but wrestling would be a perfect. So maybe we can make a pact right here. Let's start working towards that. Let's get some momentum going. What do you think, guys? You good with that?
I'm for it. I think our kids in Pima County in Southern Arizona need it. There's a ton of talent here, and with the girls wrestling, there's no argument now that there's no equal for men's wrestling. So now on the the men's and women's side, we could be very competitive at the national level, at the junior college national level.
Yeah. Yeah, and I tell people this all the time, like, college sports, and people have a lot of different, perspective or thoughts about it. But I've always looked at college athletics, especially community colleges, because I feel like community college have more leverage on making a difference in somebody's life, because we accept everybody where they're at. There's no assessment, there's no SAT, ACT. We're going to take you wherever you're at and help get you to where you're going to go. And I just feel sometimes those sports, those extracurricular activities, the lure to bring them in, but the goal is to get them hooked on higher education. So like, just imagine if we can really do that with wrestling, because now's the time. Like, I think, I think there's a lot of, energy and focus. I think, the UFC, all this stuff, wrestling's a big part of it, right? If you don't have a good grappling ground game in those sports, you're not going to be successful. So, yeah, we can talk about that. But I do want to hit on something else, because a lot of times, we talk about the boys and the men and all this stuff. But tell us a little bit about your female wrestling program, the girls program.
So last year we took second at the state championship. We had 2 state champions, Sarah Perez and Mia Palacios were our first state champions in Sahuarita history. And we had, I think we were like maybe 14 points out of first place. So we had a chance to win it, and then we just didn't perform. Our other girls didn't perform as well as they would have liked, or as well as we would have liked. But our first year taking second place, and we ended up winning like assistant coaching staff of the year for Arizona and Section 7, which is like the western part of the United States. So we were really proud of that team, really happy with their progress that they made. And then this year, we've just been hit by the injury bug. Just, we've got elbow banged up, we've got shoulder banged up, and probably not going to finish where we would have liked to. But we still, we've got a couple individual girls that are still shooting for their state championships.
Mm-hmm. And the thing, if we did have junior college wrestling in Arizona, like Mia is wrestling in Missouri, and Sarah just signed to go wrestle somewhere in Nebraska. I'm pretty sure if they had an opportunity to wrestle here at Pima,
so you're talking about a female wrestling program also at the community college. That would be really interesting.
I think girls high school wrestling is the fastest growing sport right now. It has been for the last couple of years, and those kids. Yeah, we've got 4 boys that are either wrestling now or going to be next year, and they're all going to Midwest, or they have to go to the Pacific Northwest, and I'm pretty sure a lot of those guys would.
Oh yeah, they loved it. Now, do any of the schools in California have wrestling programs? Because ASU still has theirs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
are there
there's
Fresno, right? Fresno State has a program.
Fresno dropped it.
Oh my goodness.
They just dropped it for the second time.
Really? Okay.
But there's quite a few in California.
Yeah.
And they used to have I don't know, I think 80 junior colleges with wrestling. Went back when I was wrestling. And now I think there's only maybe 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we had wrestling, because it was Joe Soloria, like, tried to keep it going. Like, he would go fundraise. I mean,
Joe was a hustler.
We got to honor that guy, because that guy, you talk about nobody will outwork that guy.
Just about killed himself.
Oh, yeah.
Just to raise money, man.
No,
Yeah.
he would raise money, and they'd go to Kansas. They'd go all over the place, and then he would host a meet. But, man, he was just did everything he could to keep it going. So we'd have to bring him back to help us raise funds. But I think the thing that I've learned as an athletic director and as a working at a community college, you've got to get the board of governors for us, the board, like, to support it. Like, if you're not going to do it right, then don't do it. And that thing a lot of times, because wrestlers are so resilient and tough and can do more with less, that they just say, we'll give you some scraps here. That's not right. No, we don't want to do it that way. If we're going to do it, we want to do it right. We want it to be funded, supported, and we want to make it a positive experience for everybody and see the value and why it's so important that we support it.
I don't think there'd be a problem filling up like 8 junior college teams in Arizona.
Not at all.
There's a lot of kids that would jump at the chance, I think.
It's enrollment. Like, one of the things that community colleges is, for a long time, our enrollment was going down, right? Just across the country, but here in Arizona also. Now it's starting to creep up a little bit. But the way you increase enrollment, that's going to increase enrollment, because when you get, how many are usually on a wrestling team?
I would say if it was a JC team, it'd probably be about 20.
20. So you get 20, wrestlers. And then what ends up happening is they bring their friends, they bring their buddies. Like, it's not just the 20 enrollment you're going to get. It's, hey, my buddy's going to, school at Pima Community College or Glendale Community College. I'm going to go to school with them. So it does other things as well. So I think we really need to, take this serious, and maybe you can help us set up a meeting out there in Phoenix with some key people, and then maybe I can bring some athletic directors from out there. I still have some relationships, and we can. You mean Arizona Western, Eastern Arizona, and see if this is something that has some legs, because I think we can do this.
Arizona Western wouldn't have a problem filling a team. Those
Yuma
Yuma kids are.
Well, you got San Luis over there. You got,
Arizona Eastern either. Morenci, Safford,
Pima, that's right,
Thatcher.
Safford, right there.
Safford's. I don't think they've got like 8 or 9 state championships. Morenci just won their 10th a couple years ago. They wouldn't have any problem finding kids either.
Mm-hmm. And you'd increase that enrollment there, because they dropped football, and that their enrollment took a hit with that. But because for football you have to recruit out of state usually and out of town, so you'd have to. But if you got the wrestlers there, and then you just keep them going. I mean, I think this is, now that I've gotten older now, and I sometimes I'm just excited and try to do something, but I think now I know the system and how to get it done. You talk to the superintendents, you talk to the board, you talk to these different people that can see, hey, Morenci, Safford, you guys are having this many wrestlers every year, but where are they going afterwards? Most of them, I know Safford, I was in the Marine Corps, there was so many Marines. Safford always, I think they would fill the Marine Corps because everybody's Safford, they were Marines, right? But, they're doing things or but they can have a pathway to an education, a college degree, that kind of thing.
Well, just last year, 3 Morenci kids graduated, and they're all wrestling at Adams State in Colorado.
Yeah.
And there's 3 kids right there that wouldn't be leaving the state.
Yeah. And I'm sure they're having to probably take student loans and do all kinds of different things, because it's not
partial
cheap.
Scholarships.
Yeah, partial scholarships. Yeah. So, this is exciting. I'm like, and just sparks are going off in my head right now, because I'm thinking, this is why all this happened. Because Raul called me a couple days ago. Hey, I'm not feeling too well. Can you fill in? Now I feel like, now I know why this is happening. But we got to make sure that we follow up on this, and we could look back at this episode and say, hey, this is where it started. Coach Paul Vasquez and his dad Tim. So yeah, so let's get into anything else. A couple other things I want to ask you. These are some questions that I can share, like an experience with me, but I want to hear from you. So the question is this: when was there a moment in your life where a coach or a person says something that made a difference? So I'm going to share my story real quick, so you can kind of get where I'm at with this, but it doesn't have to be this. So when I was I went to Arizona Western for 2 years and then played baseball at Albuquerque University, New Mexico. And there was this coach, Tony, that would come up to us when we were stretching, and he would hit the fungo on my cleat and say, "Hey, Edgar Soto, best hitter in the conference." And I'd always have like a great game or something. So I remember him saying those words, and then it just did something for me that it just put me in mindset. Is there a moment in your life, Coach, that maybe somebody has said something to you or done something that kind of clicked for you or helped you? Can you share that?
For me, it was just the car rides home with him, leaving every match. And it wasn't even necessarily when I was wrestling, but when I was in middle school and I'd go watch his teams, or we'd come home from a tournament and we would just talk about things and assess different situations with different kids. And, like you talked about, coming back and getting third place. And in our state championship last year, the biggest thing that won it for us, we had 2 individual state champs, but the guys on the consolation side, if we had, I think 3 kids could come back and get third, 1 got 6th, and 2 others got 5th. But if those guys hang their heads after they lose their matches in the championship side, and they all had chances to win in the semis, and we just kind of let them slip away. But they came back and had 5, between all of them, 5 1-point wins. If any of that goes different and those guys don't decide to tough it out and they decide to hang their heads and quit on themselves or their team, we don't win that state championship.
That's why wrestling is a team sport. It is. People think it is individual, but no, it's also a team sport, because those are things that if they just, kind of pack it in, you're not going to do that.
And
so.
he was always talking about just trying to be a sponge when I was younger, go to camps. Like if I went to Solorio's camp, or I was around different coaches, just be a sponge and try to absorb as much as you can. And I did that on the car rides home, and we would just talk about wrestling and life and how it pertains to other things going on. And then, in high school I had Coach Lopez and Coach Galvan. They were teachers on campus, and I took their classes as many times as I could, just to be around them and spend more time with them, because they had, even still, I talked to Coach Lopez. We cancel haircut appointments back and forth all the time, 2-3 weeks at a time. Just to be around them and the influence that they've had on me. I'm just grateful to be around people like that.
Yeah, no, awesome. I love it. And Coach Barrier, tell me about a moment, maybe younger, older, where somebody in your life made a difference, or a conversation that you can remember, a memorable moment.
Well, I was coaching a kid named Joaquin Contreras at Sal Point in the 90s, and he started wrestling as a freshman. And he made himself into a pretty good wrestler. In his junior year, he got third at the state tournament, and he had lost to this kid from Yuma High, Johnny Hurtado, in the semis at Flowing Wells and semis at state. The next year, he and Hurtado were the same weight, and Hurtado beat him in the finals of Flowing Wells. And Joaquin was very popular. A lot of the coaches came and told me, "Hey, you got to move Joaquin to a different weight class because he deserves to win a state title, but he's never going to beat Johnny." Mm-hmm. And Johnny was just a buzzsaw. And I was, because if I did move him up a weight class, he was going to win it. Mm-hmm. I knew, but I didn't want to hurt his confidence by approaching him. So finally one day I just decided, "Hey, if you want, you can move up." And he said, "Yeah, Coach, I know I could move up and win a state title, but I wouldn't feel like a champion."
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, "Oh, man, this guy is a stud."
Yeah.
And he ends up beating Hurtado in the finals.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so that taught me a lot about...
Oh, what is Joaquin doing these days?
Joaquin lives in Phoenix. He's does something with computers. Some IT guy. Yeah. But he's an awesome guy. He that event in August that we were just talking about.
Last Warrior Standing.
Oh, yeah. He came down and took my wife and I out for dinner, and we went and watched it. And He's an IT guy.
Man, I got to meet this guy. I need to meet him. Seriously, that's
okay,
awesome.
He came and watched one of our matches up at Chrisman High School. And he's he's an awesome guy.
We see he's got to be one of our advocates out there in Phoenix. We got to put him to work out there.
All right. Yeah.
So we could do that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, I love that story because, man, you know, people are so quick to move to the easy path, right? Like you could go that way. I know I could win it, but man, it's not going to feel right. You know, it's not going to feel right. I remember, remember we were doing the aluminum bats and the wood bats, and there was a big controversy. And one of the questions was, well, if you play in a national championship game and one team's wearing using aluminum bats but you're allowed to use using wood and you're allowed to use wooden, would you use, or aluminum, would you use it? And I was like, I'd use wooden because I even if I won with, I feel like I cheated. I wouldn't feel like a champion. So I just thought of that. But no, that's awesome that Joaquin. Now, how about for you growing up? Who was a big influence in your life?
Oh, my
high school and
my older brother and
really?
all his teammates. I'd followed those guys around like a puppy dog. And,
So now, okay, was Dan Gable the coach there in Iowa?
He was the coach at Iowa.
So you went to Iowa State. Yeah. I was watching and things pop up on my YouTube or whatever, but they're talking about like Iowa, University of Iowa. That's where Dan Gable was, right? And the wrestlers and why they're so good and what they do. And what they said is that, and you kind of mentioned this a little bit, so it reminded me of what you said is, they do a lot of like wrestling, like in certain positions, and they, just do a lot of just wrestling instead of not as much drilling, but they'll start from certain positions. But what they said, what happens at University of Iowa is that a lot of those wrestlers by the end, like they hurt themselves, they get injured because they train so hard. So that's got to be like it's a fine line between overtraining and making sure that you're healthy to wrestle when it counts most. I mean, you almost have to like reverse engineer it. You're a state champ, but like peaking at the right time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So
and that's part of what we're dealing with right now. We had a couple light practices the last couple of days. We had a duel on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday I let the kids out early. And then a few weeks ago, we had a duel on Tuesday, and I told the kids we didn't have practice on Wednesday because they get out of school early. I said, you guys are off early. You get the day off to enjoy yourselves. And they were like nervous. Like, what do you mean we have the day off? What's going on? Coaches, can I ask why we had the day off? Are we in trouble?
Yeah.
Do we need to bring running shoes on Thursday? And I'm like, no, we've worked really hard. You guys earn a day off. Go home, enjoy yourselves, do something that you enjoy. Get away from the sport for a little bit because it can be a grind and it can wear you down and like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, well, hey, I just want to thank both of you. I don't know, I'm going to be selfish here. Personally, this was like really fun for me, and I really feel we got a lot of comps. But thank you for being part of the show, and hopefully we have you back in the future. Maybe after you win your state championship, we can bring you back on and bring a couple of your wrestlers with you.
Let's do it.
That.
Let's book it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Edgar.
Yeah.